We may not be able to get in on the hurling action like we're used to, but we can get in on some exclusive offers from Renault. To celebrate their 3rd year as official car partner of the GAA, Renault is offering a range of special offers exclusive to all GAA club members. So now you can take home the win right to your door. Check out renault.ie/GAA to find out more.
With Renault, official car partner of the GAA, taking the passion of a nation to a whole new gear.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lads.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Morning, lads. How we doing?
Good, Dalo.
Very good, Dalo.
Hoagie, how's it going?
Better, Dalo.
I know. Welcome along, Brian.
Cheers.
Great to have you. And we're not trying to. We're booked, but we came in like.
I could have done without having to look at Landers for the next hour and a bit now. But to be honest, and particularly the way he's dressed, his get up there. But anyway,
I tell you now, right?
His bookcase is getting fair covered in red now. Shield and Sports Direct and everyone like, Jesus, it's like Newcastle United behind you.
I tell you, after the last 25 years of persecution, you have to give me every county in the country. You're going to suffer for the next hour now, I can tell you.
TJ, with the Gaelic grounds in the background there, and some things never change. Nice and steady going into the final. No excitement, no anything. Just we grew up fine and steady. The song goes.
Yes, it was only the semi-final we won, Dalo, the weekend. So we know we have another match to play, so it won't be counting any chickens yet. But unbelievable weekend, Dalo. It had it all. The hay was the kind of first part of the conversation. Donny bought the hay on the way home, I believe, so I got a good deal on it. We had the crowds. We had unbelievable battles. We had pace, power, scores, subs, possession, tactics, water breaks, sweepers, tactic boards, red cards, extra time. Where do you want to start?
Oh, Jesus, no. We started the hay truck. Landers, one of them was driving the hay truck. Like,
well, everybody thinks Dalo is yourself and Diagon were driving the truck.
Yeah, well, we got thrown under the truck anyway, I'll tell you that much, and we minded our own business.
He did.
Jack Willis got fair free advertising. Like, I didn't honestly know what was in the front of that sweatshirt. Honest to God, one of the girls brought that home from. I go on, Ray. The established Great Britain. I swear, one of the girls brought it home from a shopping trip there to Dundrum 4 or 5 weeks ago with a few of our friends, and that's view Daddy. Now, she's that's lovely when I said that'd be lovely now going to the pub when it gets cold and the outdoor. I honestly didn't know whether it was Jack Willis or Eddie there, so what it was. But anyway, Rory O'Neill.
Who Jack Willis was.
The hay truck. Next thing I got the call, Rory on the phone, like, you know, I thought he was wondering, did I get a ticket to get in? Because in fairness, they got me the ticket. He says, are you here, Dalo? And he's best Nemo Rangers, like, I am, Rory, yeah. I'm just in there, yeah. Get down here to the corner, will you? He says, go down to some steward, I need you. Jesus, Rory, I'm not dressed for this at all. I haven't even shaved. Oh, man, stop. Anyway, that's show business.
That's show business. I mean, it barely made it myself, Dalo.
You were looking dapper, though. You had the haircut and everything, like.
I got the old championship haircut for the weekend, yeah. Yeah, very important for the championship.
I couldn't hear you now. How'd you get on?
We got on fine. So I said I just made it in because I was kind of stuck in a little bit of the traffic. Like, so, yeah, I didn't even know at that stage the match was put back a half an hour. But I see that poor old Limerick bus driver, Kevin Griffin, lovely fella that he is, and has been driving the Limerick bus for years. He got to blame. And he telling me and that he well on time, and he in Dublin the night before, and the Limerick boys come up by train, and yet I don't know how it came about that the Limerick team got blamed for holding the thing up, like, but no point in blaming Kevin Griffin, lads. He is always on time.
Not Griffin, no blaming Griffin.
Always.
Well, come here, and TJ, they came up by train. Like, we were led to believe then that I said maybe over the COVID they didn't come by train unusually, but I knew they always go by train.
Yeah.
So they must have gone to some hotel near the train station, I presume.
Yeah, but Kevin, the buses are always there. Like even though Kevin is Limerick, like we said, obviously drives Limerick teams, he goes up in advance and he meets them off the train. So they still use their own buses. They don't use say the Dublin buses. Like so, I don't know how the word got out there that it was the Limerick team who held it up. Like because when I arrived in the stadium at 4:00, like one of the first people I met was John Kiley because I was coming in that way and I came out around. So the Limerick team were well. I think they were in the stadium at 5 to 4. So I don't know what happened. Look, from the supporters' point of view, there was mayhem on
Yeah,
the
it was a
road.
good move.
It was a good move. It was great for supporters, and I think there was even still supporters late for the game, even at 5:30. So to be fair to the GA, it was a good call from a supporters' point of view. I know it's difficult in the players. I've been in dressing rooms where there was extra time in the game before, and the game was put back half an hour, and you know, I mean, they're fine-tuned to the minute from, let's say, dietary or nutritional needs and everything, all that, and it's a little bit frustrating. But there was a lot of frustration on the road, and there was a lot of people giving out about fucking farmers, right? And their hay.
that was the piercing crowd.
Yeah, but to be fair,
Darragh Donovan wasn't too happy either after getting his man of the match, was he? He said it as well.
Yeah, he said it. And look, as I said, from a player's point of view, it's a difficult one because, look, in the modern game, we all know from being inside these dressing rooms, these guys are fine-tuned to the minute. And I know now that the speeches wouldn't have been made and like they wouldn't have been actually ready to go. But in terms of getting yourself ready for a 5:00 throw-in and then everything's pushed back half an hour, it can throw you. But it's the same for both teams. But overall, from my point of view, being one of the people on the road, it was frustrating. And there was kind of an easing of tension once people knew that the game was put back half an hour. If it wasn't, I'd say there would have been woeful pressure. So good call.
Did it ever happen to you, Hoagie, in all your years going up there? Where you go? You go up to the hotel near the airport there, did you?
Yeah, up to Crown Plaza, up in Santry there. I'm trying to think. Was there ever delayed? I think there was one down in Thurles, all right, but I think there was one in Thurles, right, one year. There was an issue, but like as TJ says, it's far from ideal. The way things are nowadays, like everything is done to the minute, you know, and you know, players have it down, you know, in a routine. I know we had it, you know, certainly a routine, and it was down, you know, you had it down to, you know, every minute, you know, and you did. Players hate anything that kind of changes, you know, or breaks their concentration and something like that. It's easy to say, look, it's just a half an hour and reset, but it's not that simple, you know. And like I suppose from a health and safety point of view, it was great that, you know, it was the right decision, just to put it back, you know, and let the fans kind of, you know, get a bit of extra time to get in. But from a player's point of view, it is annoying. But look, sure, I mean, you can't legislate for everything, you know. You try and legislate for everything, but I mean, Jesus, Bales on the Naas Road, I mean, you know, with the best plan in the world, and Paul Kinnerk and John Kiley sitting there planning out everything, I think that was well down the list.
What I often thought was, like, when I was going off playing was, and I suppose, you know, things that start to get more professional under Gerald Nairn, and that we'd appear out for the bus, the few of us in Clarecastle, the old road, that time, of course, no motorway, and had to come through the village, and we'd be waiting there, the 5 or 6 of us or whatever was in it, and once you kind of left your home house with your 3 hurleys and your gear bag, you were just handed over unconditionally, and you were, Gerald Nairn had you, or like Bangkok has him. You know, that was the way, like, you were on the bus and their timed in was everything of what they told me to do. And then I knew eventually I had to run out onto the pitch in Thurles or Cork or whatever and play. But up to that point, it was whatever they had decided to do with me. So that's, I think, where the half an hour for players could be a bit throwy offish, you know. They're so routine oriented now with their music, everything like that. So look, at the normal lad would probably throw it off and be able to handle it, but some lads are fair high strung, as we know, and fair nervous in those times.
I think even have been there, done that before in the games is definitely a big help in those scenarios, whereas like you might be more nervous waiting for the first time. But just as Hoagie said there, like, it's part of when you're managing a team or managing a setup or going anywhere, the what ifs are huge now. Like, and you know, what if the bus breaks down effectively has always been one of them. So you cover all them. And as I said, in fairness, John Kiley said they've seen different scenarios over the years now, and they're an experienced management team as well. Like, so it probably didn't really affect him at all, I'd say. I don't know about Waterford. I did see the Waterford players in and out of the pitch once or twice just to try and kill that time. Like, so, look, I can't say like both teams in fairness started the game reasonably well, so I don't think it was a major factor.
Yeah.
Is it true
the closest thing we came to Dalo was
sorry, Dalo?
Chip.
Is it true that JP has bought the farm?
Oh, I believe so.
Tractor, lorry, everything.
The whole lot, yeah.
You get held up, Marco. You've been held up now for 16 years.
Yeah. 2 more weeks won't make much of a difference now. Yeah, 2001. 2001 was the closest thing we came to this, but we were playing Limerick actually below in Parky Queeve, and we were Parky Ring waiting for the guard escort to arrive at 2 o'clock. No sign of a guard escort at 5 past, 10 past, quarter past. And then we're kind of getting a bit edgy. What's the story like? And geez, it happens 2 anyway. We decided that the guard escort, our word filtered through that the guard escort wasn't going to arrive because there was some hassle with the intermediate match that was played beforehand. I think there was some hassle. So 2:30, we decided to head off in our cars, and I know, to be fair, it isn't a long ways down from Parky Ring to Park, but the crowds were ferocious, and it took us about 40 minutes to get from Parky Ring to Park. We arrived in at 10 past 3 for a 3:30 throw-in, and fellas wasn't togged or anything like that, like, you know. So that was the only thing. And like, I suppose we found ourselves down 6 or 7 points within 10 minutes. Now we fought our way back to draw level after half time, but Barry Foley broke our hearts at the end of the game. He cut a line ball over the bar. And it's the only match in the history of GA that there was no extra time allowed. So, Pádraig Horan, 20 years later, my friend, we still remember you for the fact that you didn't play at least a minute of extra time. We were beat by a point. Limerick went on to the All-Ireland semi-final, I think. It was a final.
We were in the ascendancy, Malcolm. We had you. No point.
Yeah. Sean O crashed his car.
Played the 70.
Sean O crashed his car. Who played the 70?
Pádraig Horan.
Oh, he did, yeah. He did, yeah. He did, yeah. Anyway, that was the only time we were delayed, Dalo. But we won't be delayed, I'd say, in a fortnight's time now. We might be in a rush to get to Croke Park in 2 weeks' time to take on the juggernaut. No, I wouldn't say so. No, I'd say I have a feeling they'll travel by train.
The team. Well, sure, look.
I'd say it went fairly well over the weekend, like, you know.
They went to Parnell Park. They went by train, then they went up to Parnell Park, a couple of pucks, and you can eat upstairs in Parnell Park, or you can eat out in the shed. Like, do you know, finally, Mark, are you realising that the Cork team always went up to the Burlington the night before, and all the before did like sometimes you help the players to try and win games, you know. Like, I think the players really enjoyed it. I think going up by train, morning filled in, into Croke Park, play the game, win the game, and home again the train. Like, this crack about going up to the Burlington the night before because every other Cork team went before. What kind of bollocks is that? Like?
And in fairness, there's a long way to 3:30, like, isn't there?
The definition of insanity, sure, doing the same thing and getting no different
results. A different result.
Yeah.
Well, we did happen to win an awful lot of All-Irelands doing it that way, Dalo, as well. So, but I think, look, you're right. Things change, and you know, they do change. That's the reality. And I would be wholeheartedly behind the train scenario, to be honest. It's a way easier to move around. It's a way more relaxed. If fellas want to have a game of cards or do a crossword or something like that, they can have that in the train, whereas you can't really have that in the bus or you know, going the night before. There is a lot of time that you need to kill because you'll probably be leaving on the Saturday, maybe 9:30, like, you know, and it's a long evening in the Saturdays. And I remember one thing that Barry Murphy always said to us, like, you know, that go to make sure you're in bed now by 9 o'clock and don't be reading the papers. And of course, fucking half the players were down that night trying to get the first edition of the Independent that will come in at 9 o'clock, like, that will be delivered to the hotel. So, but it is a long time to kill, and you know, I'd say they probably will go with the train, I'd say, for the final, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I'd say they will too. Yeah, book somewhere for the Sunday night, and don't worry, like Saturday night, let the train take care of it. That's a great weekend. Like we've often discussed it. Are we giving away a weekend by, I know things will return to normal next year now, hopefully, with the round robin, which I think will be way better for everybody. I think there's no doubt Limerick and Kilkenny enjoyed a substantial advantage with the timings, and compared to Waterford, even Cork. Now Cork played very well. Waterford didn't play so good, but I just think get back to the round robin, we'd be better off. And no one. But I love this idea of no football, and it's a hurling weekend, Brian, and it's Saturday and Sunday, and it's just a festival of hurling in lots of ways. And we know we'll have the final coming as well.
Yeah.
For me, it's just turned out to be a great move.
Yeah, I think we were chatting about this last year as well, and I'm still sitting on the fence, to be honest. On one hand, I can totally see where you're coming from, Dalo. As you said, it's a weekend completely dedicated to hurling. Olympics aside, obviously, this year, but and it's great. It's particularly when you get two matches of the quality we had this weekend, and it does seem to deliver more often than not. The weekends you kind of get a match on a Saturday and you go, Jesus, what a match, and it's going to be hard to live up to repeat that, and then next thing you know, the Sunday is even better. So for sure, it's fantastic, and your whole weekend is built around what you're going to do on the Saturday and the Sunday, whether you're traveling up or where you're going to watch it. The other side of it is, you're nearly only getting over the first match and talking about it and analysing it and catching your breath, and there's another one coming straight at you, and you'd nearly need a couple of days just to kind of to bask in the glory, if you like, of the what you're after seeing, from the Limerick Waterford perspective, and and give that its due and analyse that, and then kind of build up to the next match the week later. So, it's there. I don't know, is there a right or wrong answer to it? I suppose it may be a bit of a traditionalist to me. I like having them on, kind of 1 week apart, and that gives you the opportunity even from a promotional point of view, to promote the game from and really focus in on each game and give that its airtime. But look, at the same time, at least it was great to be able to go to the matches and have them back in the summer and have a crowd in there and have the atmosphere. So, I'll take that for starters anyway.
Yeah. It was magic to hear Red Bales going up that kind of thing. Waterford, wasn't it? Since we got a bit of an atmosphere. It was fantastic.
Yeah, but it's fantastic that the GA have moved 24,000 at both matches over the weekend, 40,000 for the finals. I know there's other associations are giving out mad. Their spectator levels are down at a very low level, but I suppose the fact that you can seat people in Crow Park and you can, I suppose, structure it that, try and keep people somewhere socially distanced and stuff like that is a help for our association and our game. And we can only protect our game at the end of the day and do the best we can for our supporters and our players. But, it was fantastic to be at the match yesterday. I must say, there's, even if you're watching at home, there was great excitement. And Jackie and the kids, two of the kids watched it at home. Myself and Charlie went up yesterday. And the first game he went to, he was 6. That was 2019 when Kilkenny beat us. But what a difference in 2 years in terms of him just watching the match and getting into it and the excitement. And as you just said there about the Rebels, and he came into his mum this morning and he was going, Rebels, and then clapping the hands, Rebels, So, we mentioned about promoting the game, there's a couple of different levels of promotion, but I'm just seeing it as, I suppose, a young dad and having young kids going to matches and stuff like that now. Great. And I was sitting in the section with parents with kids and stuff like that yesterday. It was just magic stuff. And no matter how the result went, right, I think in his situation, he may not realise what the difference is between winning and losing. It was just the excitement, the chanting, people getting up off the seats when there was goal scoring opportunities, really got into it now, the same as I suppose we were getting into it as adults and stuff like that. So we have a magnificent game, guys, and we just need to keep promoting it. And Ring said years and years ago about the best players are yet to come, and he was so right. And I've no doubt we are living in an era where there's absolutely fantastic players. And can they get better? I suppose obviously they can, but we were treated to a marvel over the weekend, I'd have to say.
Yeah, well said. And do you know what? It's great to hear you back on that sort of talk as well, because during the first lockdown, you you wouldn't have hurled at all if you got your time over. Like, so it's good to hear that, Charlie.
Yeah.
You're back in the tent.
Yeah.
I thought Charlie was going to be a horse trainer. Like,
Dalo, he was in the long. Landers was in the long grass for so long he couldn't find his way out of it, but he's out of it now, and there's no stopping him.
It was funny. It was funny being doing the analysis with Jackie T and like he's the Stepford wives and all this was brought up. Like he didn't even know what to wear. Like so good crack. A bit of breakfast with Don Logue earlier on. I didn't bring up the Stepford wives anyway.
I was surprised that did he sit down with you? He did.
Of course, jeez, we got pals.
Good. That's good to hear.
He was on last night.
He's mellowing, I'd say, is he?
No, he was on. I was got on well. I'd say the first year we met you in '99, the Munster final, he started roaring across about how many Munsters you'd won and stuff like that. Who was this one fella roaring here? Like, I think after that we haven't had a crossword. We sat alongside each other at the All Stars, I think, that year. And
very good.
Excellent. Good with him, yeah. I'd be telling him a few lies, and he'd probably telling me lies back as well. So that's all right too. That's allowed. Lads, we'll have to have a look at it. I suppose we could talk about our weekend all we like, but I guess we best have a look, and we'll go Saturday on Sunday. TJ, they came out of the blocks like lunatics. Waterford. Throw this to the three lads, and all of us. But like, is that the way to go at Limerick? I'm wondering, like, on your fourth match in 21 days, you have to put it on the board, don't you? And they miss chances, and the water break whistle sounds, and it's 4-3 to Limerick. And there's a nice man from Waterford sitting on his own in front of me, and I had the baseball hat on and the mask, and obviously the Jack Willis sweatshirt. But I said to him, I'd say, you're ghost. It's only 4-3 to me, like. I said, you need to be leading after hitting them that hard. Do you know, is it the wrong up maybe? Should you feel your way in against Limerick and, move around? Because you're not going to... You'll hit them, but they'll be getting back up. You can put Will O'Donoghue in each, you can put Rayneck in his arc back up. You have to put it on the scoreboard, and even as Tipperary found, mightn't be enough to put it on the scoreboard either.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. Like, I would agree with you. I think that to me, watching the two warm-ups, I would definitely have said, like, and look, each team to their own in terms of their warm-up, and you can't judge what's going to happen coming down the road by the warm-up. But Waterford definitely used an awful lot more fuel in the warm-up to get ready for the start of this game. They were on the money, and I would agree that 100% with you. They won the physical exchanges, the 3 or 4 big turnovers in that first quarter, like especially the one where Ozzy pointed the sideline. Massive result for them. But to go in a point down at the water break, then, like, yeah, that has to be deflating after winning that, right? Limerick then, in the second quarter, like by half-time, all 6 Limerick forwards scored from play, and I think John said after the game that maybe after the first quarter, he felt they controlled the game, and I kind of felt that in the stand as well. I thought it was going Limerick's way. Once they scored 11 points there in that second quarter and led 15-7 at half-time, Shemmy Flanagan was unbelievable in the first half, Dalo. Like those scores that he's starting to make look very easy. But I said all 6 forwards were motoring. Gillan possibly could have had a goal there in the first half when he cut inside. And it just seemed to be going Limerick's way. And probably should have, yeah. And they seemed to boss the game from there. So I would say your reading of it is pretty much correct.
Yeah. It was unbelievably physical, Anthony.
The second quarter was go on, and like the word, but can you win doing that to Limerick?
Very hard, Anthony. Like, and it was a concern I would have had for the Cork team as well, because Kilkenny would be very noted for being physical, but the conditioning of the Limerick players is by far and away ahead of everybody else, I think, in the country at the moment. Like, they have no player that you could say physically you could dominate them. And then when you throw in the side, like they're like, Diarmuid Burns, Kyle Hayes, Hegarty, all over 6'5", like they're absolute giants. And most of their backs are over 6 foot tall as well. So they're extremely physical. And Anthony, barring a couple of the Waterford players, they wouldn't have the physical, makeup of them. And we mentioned on the preview about Jamie Barron, the one player that Waterford needed to get into the game from the word go, and Will O'Donoghue again, like, just didn't give him an inch, like, and Jamie, you know, he tried his socks off, but just physically wasn't, and like every time he went to jink past Will O'Donoghue seemed to be there just at that last second to turn him around and force him to go back out with the ball. But in terms of taking on Limerick physically, I don't think so. You just can't. You have to play around them, I think.
And Dalo, Mark, I was going to say, in fairness to Waterford, as mad as it sounds, right, it seems like as if they targeted Kyle Hayes, Will O'Donoghue, and Gerard Hegarty. It was the three real big fellas they went after early doors. So I said, in one sense, you were kind of saying maybe they went to hammer the hammer, right? But it's just fighting those games, or fighting those three individuals. That's a massive ask.
And TJ, the thing about it is, like, you can fight those three, but there's another 10 or 12 behind as well. Like, when you're finished with those three fellas, because Waterford wouldn't have 15 fellas to physically take them on. They'd have 5 or 6 fellas that would be physically very, very physical. And in fairness to Stephen Bennett, of all of it, Jesus, the hits that he put in, particularly in the first half, were ferocious. And himself and Barry Nash came together a couple of times, and they were great to see, and they were very honest. The physical exchanges are extremely honest, and fair play to John Keenan in terms of leaving it go and stuff like that. But Waterford wouldn't have enough players, Anthony, to physically take them on, and you know, we'll be talking about the final at another stage. But it was the first quarter was ferocious, I would have thought.
Yeah, the battle of the game, I suppose, for me would have been Glenn and Prunty, Huggy, and Conor Prunty's some fullback, isn't he? So, like, I mean, Clare beat them without Barron and Prunty, and sometimes I think that the two of them weren't there, such an influence on the team. Maybe Jamie didn't, but even Jamie, when he went in full forward, you know, he the first bit of trouble Dan Morrissey had was when Jamie came in there. But I thought Prunty, he's such a strong boy, and they had a great battle.
Absolutely. Prunty is just a player. He's really kind of come into his own over the last 2 seasons, you know, and I was really looking forward to that kind of battle. I thought Prunty would pick up Flanagan. It was interesting. He picked up Galan, and they had a real battle, you know, and you know, there's not too many lads can physically, I won't say dominate, but certainly had the answers over Galan, you know. And what's really impressive as well is his mobility. For a guy who's so big, you know, he was able to maneuver, turn, stay with Galan. You know, Galan had turned on a sixpence, and he was just able to get that touch in at the right time. And he's such a presence here on the edge of the square. And like the guy, you know, we talk about Kyle Hayes and Hegarty and these guys. Like I love watching Dan Morrissey. They're coming in on the edge of the square. I know he came in for Richie English the last day, but he's so calm, he's so reassured. And like, you look at any of the teams, like, it's been a problem position for Cork as well. And we'll obviously come on to that match and the job that Downey did there, full back from yesterday. And it's a really important position, you know, and it just kind of, the confidence of having a really strong guy there at the edge of the square. And that position has evolved, you know. It's no longer, you have to be a big guy, and all three of those guys and 4 guys that played in that position the weekend are big guys. But Jesus, their athleticism is phenomenal, like, you know. And Prunty, you know, he's just a really clever player, you know, the way he's able to, when he does get the ball, then he's used to it. But it was a great battle between himself and Galan. I loved watching it. And you know, you know, it's the likes of him you feel for. He's just a real warrior for Waterford, and there's no doubt they missed him earlier in the year, you know, when they had to hurl without himself and Barron.
Dalo's
gone.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chase, I didn't think it was that bad. I was like,
got 1 goal.
Dalo, what do you make of Waterford's structure in terms of, obviously Conor Gleeson came in for Patrick Curran and he picked up Keane. They had Callum Lyons detailed for Gerard Hegarty, Kieran Bennett detailed and Tom Morris with him, and then Shane Bennett sitting deep, like right playing with 5 forwards. To me, like, I think it's been proven that doesn't work against Limerick.
No, sure. I mean, Shane Bennett was redundant, basically, TJ. And like, if somebody, lads, plays Callum Lyons as a man marker again over Waterford, whether it be Liam or whoever take over from Liam whenever he leaves it or whatever, the only bit the real life we saw out of Callum Lyons was when he was let off the hook and the third quarter and burst up the field. And we saw the Callum Lyons that we know and love, like, man marker. He did a good old job on Hago, like, but I just don't get this man marker, Callum Lyons. Of course he can do the job. As a team, he's not a big one for me. You there?
You're just breaking up us there. You're breaking
up now. Yeah.
But like maybe not so much in the first half, but in the second half, their structure, it definitely lost a lot of shape, Mark. Like even like when you were there was 3 or 4 times like Waterford or whatever, 6, 7, 8 points down, and they hit the ball up the field, and there's 2 or 3 Limerick free players there. Like so, it just didn't really give them a chance to get back in the game.
But TJ, like a lot of the Limerick game plan revolves around possession and keeping possession. And if you give your defence an extra man all the time, the Limerick fellas just keep popping the ball to the next fella. And they won't puck the ball away for the sake of pucking it away. So like Limerick's use of the ball is always going to be excellent. And then you have the 2 out men up front in Flanagan and Glenn, right? So like, you know, to me, there was no way a Limerick fella and a Limerick defender was going to puck it straight down to Shane Bennett, like, and give him a loose ball. So, you know, I can't understand why they went with a sweeper at all, to be honest with it. You know, you just don't give the Limerick players that ball. You can't do that.
It's insanity. Yeah, I agree with you.
Especially when Prunty can maybe do a good job on Gillane, like, you know, you have to trust your lads then to mark them in, like.
Exactly. You have to back your own guys. You know, I mean, you're going out and you're dropping a man back. You're immediately saying you're going to concede grounds. You're going to, you know, you don't trust your 6 backs. I think like that day is gone. You know, the likes of, as the lads have said, like you just can't. You can't afford to do that against Limerick. You know, the players that likes of Morrissey and Hegarty, these guys, you know, they'll work it out from the back. They'll get it to these guys, and they'll pop it over the bar from 100 yards, no bother, and they'll keep doing that. You know, and they'll draw you out. And on top of that, you've got 2 of the best inside forwards who every time, if you can get the ball in, you know, diagonal ball into them, it sticks. 9 times out of 10, it sticks, you know, Gillane and Flanagan. And Flanagan has this ability to hit it over his shoulder as well, which, you know, more often than not, you'll tell young lads, don't you know, turn, face the defender, take him on. But he has this ability to hit it over his shoulder, which is another kind of dimension to it. But what they do is they're patient, they'll hold the ball, they'll recycle it, they'll play that ball to the advantage of the lads inside, and then it sticks. And when it sticks, then they have the option either take the man on or pop it to a runner. You know, so and it's all because they have time out the field to get their head up. And you know, you just look. You're talking about the best team in the country, and you're saying to them, "Go on, look, I'll give you a chance to get the ball in your hands and get your head up." And it's mad, you know.
The other important thing is you're playing Limerick is you have to take your chances. And Waterford in the first half. Yeah, there was like Waterford 8 wides in the first half, and the 3 frees definitely hurt them in terms of them going wide, kind of sucked a bit of life out of them. And to me, they'd probably 2 half-goal chances. Ozzy had a shot there that was kind of really, it was a weak shot at Nicky, and then there was another one where they were through, and basically the hand pass got blocked down by Sean Finn or whatever, right? So all those chances are really, really important, I suppose, when you're playing like Limerick, and that didn't go their way. And to me, it's like as if it's kind of just sucked a bit of life out of them.
Yeah, as you know yourself, you need to keep the scoreboard ticking over all of the time. And like Stephen Bennett last year was absolutely on fire from the get-go with his frees. And it kept Waterford in the game. It kept them ticking over all last year. But for some reason yesterday, he missed a couple of uncharacteristic frees that he'd normally knock over, no problem whatsoever. And I know we're going to come to it, like there was a few words between himself and Liam Cahill at the first water break. I don't know really what was said, or was it over the freeze, or was it something else? But anytime when a player pokes the manager into the chest, I don't know, it's not a good sign, like, you know.
I didn't know what to make of that.
He had a bit of a Dan Shanahan. So the Dan Shanahan moment, like that, to me, I don't know what was it about, like, you know. And Jesus, you have to have respect for the management, like. And I just thought, I'm very surprised with Stephen, to be honest with you, like, you know, just was out of character now, you know. But there was obviously a lot of frustration.
Obviously, he was maybe suggesting that they might switch free taker at that stage.
quite possibly Anthony, but like Patrick Curran would possibly be their replacement free taker who wasn't on the field. Maybe we just thought that, there could be something happening behind the scenes that we're not aware of. But like it certainly showed a frustration after the first quarter that would raise eyebrows from my point of view anyway.
Yeah, funny enough, in the warm-up, watching them closely in the warm-up, Austin hit a good lot of frees. I says, this is going to be something we're going to see. And he did eventually hit long-range ones, Austin.
He did.
So I don't know whether there was something coming. But lads, there was a vicious wind swirling on Saturday. Way worse than yesterday now. It was a real changer, I think, for hitting frees in the bowl. Like, obviously in Croke Park, the wind hardly ever affects who wins the game because it's such a bowl effect. But it was a swirling wind, and I thought it made it very, very difficult for free takers.
It probably did, but I think we touched this already, Dalo. Our expectation now is no win conditions. Is we have, like you see TJ Reid, Hoggy, even when Hoggy missed 65 yesterday, we're all surprised. But our expectation is that these guys will nail 100 of 100. The other thing I was going to say is, in the first half, Waterford's puck out didn't really work, right? They have a couple of moves in the puck out, like Jack Fagan, where he pops into the middle. Limerick seemed to be alive to that. They kind of just took him out of the play, and they had a guy in behind who mopped the ball up. And another one there in the first half, in fairness to Tom Morrissey, like Kieran, on a Waterford puck out right there in front of us in the Hogan stand, right? Kieran Bennett's in the right half-back position, right? The keeper is about to puck the ball out, right? And literally 2 seconds later, Kieran Bennett's in the right corner forward position, and Tom Morrissey went with him. So they were alive to all of that. But just in the modern game, there's so much going on, and tactically, it's just the video guys and the week are preparing for these games now. It's very, very forensic and detailed, and oppositions seem to be alive to an awful lot of the moves that are going on.
Yeah, unbelievable levels, like, isn't it? Limerick's stick passing, lads, is something to behold, isn't it? Just a little flick passing, and I see now they're even kind of have completely mastered the art of flicking it along the ground. Even, do you know, when there's players, a hand pass might be intercepted or a high one, but it's just rolled along the ground, literally thrown down onto your hurley and roll it along the ground. Some level of skill and control.
And I think at one stage even was Will Dunn who hit a one-handed pass. He was kind of almost being held, if you like, and he was just able to pop the ball up and one-handed to, I'm not sure who it was, just under the Cusick stand, about 15 yards straight to his chest, which is some skill. But again, it's that kind of making sure that you get the ball out of the collision. They're big enough, obviously, to ride a collision, but every time they come into contact, they're always able to recycle the ball and move it to a different point. And then, so it's so hard to try and bottle them up. It's just that ability, whether it's hand pass, stick pass, whatever way you want.
I think it's a feature of the modern game, Huggy.
Yeah.
The small hurley, the shorter hurley, and just the power of them. They're just able to flick the ball with one hand. Like, those fellas can pass the ball 30, 40 yards now with just one hand, flick, not a bother, and they're just holding the man off. Like, it's definitely a feature of the modern game. The other thing I was going to say, which was a feature of the game, I'm not sure it's maybe in the coaching manual, but Will O'Donoghue's ability in the ruck, right, to free the ball for one of his counterparts is something to behold. Yeah. But he's just able to kind of garner attention, and then one of the lads come in and just take the ball. But in the ruck, he was unbelievable. I thought a lot of the time it was like rugby-esque nearly, wasn't it?
He's the most underrated player in the country, I'd say, for sure.
You want to get into speech now early this show, Dalo, to get the All-Star for him, right? So you want to start now, right? You want to swing a couple of them reporters that are voting against him all of the time. He surely is a hot favourite for your All-Star this show.
Well, Jamie got it last year, and we all love Jamie in this show. Sure, we've been lit up over the last 2 weekends with Jamie, but unfortunately, when Will is in the house, Jamie don't get the better of that exchange.
No.
I know All-Star selector, but by God, if they can't see it themselves at this stage, that the man is the power in midfield. He just is.
He's ferocious.
Mark, the only thing I want to say to you is that the quarterfinals weren't a double header in Croke Park, and Austin Gleeson was fine to play as well yesterday from last Monday. So delighted to hear that. Have you any?
Yeah.
Well, we wait till next week, I suppose, to hear what your rumour you've heard down in Killa.
Oh, John Melrick is definitely out. He's definitely out. No chance of playing whatsoever. Keane Lynch will have the freedom of Croke Park. So he's definitely out. Robbie Flynn, 50-50 at all best. you know. And now the only thing is that we had Lazarus as well in Croke Park yesterday. Mr. Damien Cahalan, for a man who got Damien Cahalan got his appendix out 2.5 weeks ago, and he played yesterday. He's some man. He's some operator. In fairness, lads, like his father Niall before him, I think tore his cruciate or his cartilage about a week before an All-Ireland final, and he was in a cast up to his hip, and he tore off the cast, and he went out. I remember him telling me the story. They have a hill up the back of their house back in Castlehaven. And he said if he could run up to the top of the hill, he said 3 or 4 times he'd be fine. And he did that. And he played an All-Ireland final. So they're mighty men altogether, them Cahalans. They're ferocious men. So it was great to see him back. And we needed them all. We had 7 subs that came on yesterday. So, you know, it was mighty stuff. Mighty stuff.
Well, it was indeed. Another man that at the moment will be missing is Peter Casey, the Pure 6 Peter Casey. He'll appeal, no doubt. I thought it was on the hard side, I have to say. But most of my fellow pundits in the RTE scene anyway seem to think, look, still a kind of a movement of the head, and the GA hate movements of the head, even though everyone has a face guard on now and a helmet. Well, that's my take, and I still thought it was harsh. I thought, obviously, Gleeson clipped him somewhere, Conor Gleeson, and he reacted all right, but Jesus, there's no danger in anyone rubbing a face guard off each other. Like, isn't as if you're going to splay a fella around the ground. I don't know. Yeah, it'd be tough. If I had to pick 14 of the 14 outfield players, the last one I would have picked was Peter Casey to be getting that red. But we did speak that they were running for a red, and tough time on him. He'll be sick.
He will, Dalo. And look, I know we didn't touch on the potential red in the Munster final, and I don't think anybody is in any kind of way kind of maybe undecided about the Aaron Gillan one. I think that was pretty clear cut, right? But in this one, I'm with you, Dalo. Like, there's no doubt there's a coming together. Like, to me, it's not clear on the footage that he headbutted. Like, you can see Conor Gleeson's hurley coming up, right? And it looks like as if Conor Gleeson's hurley hits him either in the lower stomach or towards the conkers, right? And like when that happens, right, your head does go forward. There's no doubt about that, right? And like for me, it's definitely not an intentional headbutt. It's not. I know this is easy to say, right? It's not in the man's game. It's just not. He's an out-and-out hurler. He's a ball player. Always has been, right? And in fairness, he was having a great game. He will be a huge loss because he's a brilliant addition to the inside forward line. Huge loss. And I, for one, wouldn't like Peter Casey. Like, he didn't start that incident. He's not a dirty player. And I am saying today he doesn't deserve to miss the All-Ireland final. He doesn't.
Lads?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's tough for any player to miss in Ireland. I remember a situation a couple of years ago where this is pre-helmets being compulsory, and a very prominent forward for another county got frustrated and stuck the head in one of our lads who was wearing a helmet, and our lad had to turn around to him and go, "What are you doing?" I'm not sure what would happen in that situation, health and safety wise. Maybe they have to take him off, but yeah, look, it's heartbreaking for him. I don't know Peter myself personally, but you look, obviously Shane Dowling was talking about it last night, and TJ, you were talking. The evidence is inconclusive. It's very hard to tell from the footage what actually went on. Clearly, something happens preceding the whatever Peter did. You know, that kind of, there was a clash. Let's say, put it like that, with bodies. But look, your heart goes out to any lad that misses on Ireland. Be it through injury or as sending off or whatever. I don't know. It's unlikely he's going to get it off. As you say, the GA just don't like any movement to the head whatsoever. It's a difficult one. But look, I mean, you could see him the camera went to him in the stands, and I think he knew himself. The helmet was on his head, and he was chewing the end of the hurl, and he was, lads were tapping on the back, and he just didn't want to know. But he was completely despondent. And as a player, as a former player, look, everyone's kind of had those moments, and. Your heart really does go out to him, but it'll be unlikely if he'll get off it.
Mark?
You're right, Brian, 100% on how he was feeling in the stand. I'd say that last 8 or 9 minutes of that game was probably the loneliest place he's ever been for a long, long time. Just realising the consequences of what a red card is before an All-Ireland final. I I think, and we all know this, lads, we all played long enough, that the person who retaliates always gets caught. That's the reality. And for any fella, he should know at this stage, like, we've all got a poke off the ball or on the ball or whatever. Like,
but did he retaliate, Dominic?
Jesus, TJ, it looks like he retaliated anyway. I don't think
it looks like he did from a camera back in Hill 16, which is kind of a good bit away, right? But it's a movement to the head, right? But the other camera angles don't show that he retaliated. I'm not saying he didn't lean forward, but to me, he leaned forward as a result of the hurley coming to his body, right? I know what a headbutt is. I probably have got a couple of them. I never gave any, right? But I definitely got one or two of them in my day, right? Like, I don't think this was an intentional headbutt. And as Brian said there, why would you headbutt a fella when you're wearing a helmet and he's wearing a helmet? So for me, I don't think it was clear and obvious that this was a headbutt. And the other question I'm going to ask here is, and maybe Dale knows the answer to this, is who sent him off, right? Like, I saw the referee, he went to the linesman very briefly. He then went to the umpires. The umpires know, right, with the greatest respect, right? It was 2 or 3 shots at the 2 or 3 shots at the post. They were halfway up the post, right? And they go to Hawkeye. Fair enough, they made the right calls, right? But they certainly didn't see a headbutt 40 yards away. No way. So
while he was down talking to the umpires quite a while as well, John Keenan. I thought he did a fairly good game, in fairness to him.
It is.
The linesman kept on talking to who I don't know, but the linesman kept. That's
my point.
That's my point. Because I was right in front of it. And I actually followed the play, so I didn't actually see it. Now, not being this Arsene Wenger effort out of it, but I genuinely turned back and knew something had happened then, and I asked the fella beside me, did he see something? I said, no, what happened? So I don't know. I saw it yesterday, I suppose, more than anything, and they had different angles to slow it down. I'm wondering, did he react to the slap up in the Conkers, as you said, TJ? Did he?
Absolutely. And you can see the hurley coming forward. That's my point. So I don't think that it was an intentional headbutt. And I think if Peter Casey misses the All-Ireland final over that incident, I think it'll be a shame. I don't think it was clear and obvious. I don't think it was a dirty stroke by any matter of means. Yes, it might have been difficult for the referee. I definitely don't think the linesman or the umpire saw it. I think it might have been upstairs. I think it's harsh. And I'd like to see Peter Casey. And I'm sure, Mark, all ye sporting people in Cork would like to see us. And if you're going to have a cut off us, I'm sure you'd like to have a cut off the whole lot, right? And you'd like to see him play, right?
Absolutely. I'd be in your camp there, TJ. I hope Peter Casey is available for selection for the All-Ireland final, because I'd hate to think that you'd have to throw it to us afterwards that we didn't have a full team. But I will say this, my first reaction, Dalo, I text you, I think you asked me, was it a red? I said from the camera angle, it looked as though he headbutted your man, and that is the Hill 16. Now, to be fair, lads, we're always on about, having the linesmen and the umpires participating, and I would say certainly the umpires brought it to the referee's attention, and John Keenan did the right thing. He spoke to the umpires, he spoke to the linesmen, and they came to a decision. And lads, we had the incident in the match between Tip and Limerick where where part of the wire didn't go to the umpires, and gave a yellow where we know it should have been a red afterwards. So John Keenan must be complimented. It's a tough job to pull a red card on any player in any match, and his umpires and his linesmen must be complimented for taking the time and getting to the decision that they got to. Let the powers that be now decide whether he was correct or not correct, I suppose is what I will be saying here. And the video evidence, TJ, you're going to be relying now on technology to get your man off. And you're the man that didn't want technology last week. I really need to remind you.
I don't, and like obviously video footage needs to come into play. But what I will also say is, right, is in all walks of life, right, your character and your previous good behaviour and all that kind of stuff comes into play, right? I think that should come into play here. And like Peter Casey, he ain't that guy. And I'm saying today, right, I want to see Peter Casey. And it's unfortunate for him because he's been around the Limerick setup for the last number of years. He's been very good, but he didn't start the last 2 All-Ireland success wins, right? And he would have been starting this time around. So for him, a young fella, it's tough. But look, I am biased, right? I do know Peter. He used to work with us here in Cube for a while in the print business, and he was one of our top class finishers. And I want to see him play. And look, I'm for one, and certainly in his corner.
Yeah, look, I'd love to see him being cleared. It's not in his nature whatsoever. Like, but then everyone says, "Jeez, we hear that about every fella that's sent off." But
yeah.
Look, I think Limerick will make a strong case. I think they will make a strong case, and I'd say throw the kitchen sink at it. Well, John Keenan obviously didn't see it, so somebody told him what happened, or somebody looked at video and fed down that information, because he certainly took his time. But look, we just have to wait and see on that. And Peter, what I liked about him yesterday, he's just sat there. There was no holding his head. There was no crying. He just sat there. It's after happening, and I'm going to see what happens. So look, Limerick comfortably through, lads. Yeah, comfortably through. I would say the system not right. Waterford 4 games.
And it's
just for me facing into Limerick.
It is,
I know everyone knew the system.
Look, and we're in a COVID scenario. And to be fair, I think that the powers that be will make sure it doesn't happen again. A lot of people down our way will be saying the teams deserve a fortnight before the semi-final and a fortnight before the final. And I think you can move the calendar around. And let's not forget, the reason why we have a condensed season is COVID is one side and club championship is the other side. They are the two things that are driving the calendar. So, like, we all know it's unfair. We all know it's not right. But I'm sure the powers that be will correct that. Give them a chance.
I do agree, Mark, that 4 weeks in a row is not fair on any player. However, you suppose you do need to be careful that they can't incentivize either losing your first round and getting matches and building momentum and getting, there has to be some sort of incentive for winning your provincial and getting that break. But there's a balance for sure. I think 4 weeks in a row is too much.
Yeah, we could have bought a week somewhere along the way, I think. For those teams to be that bit fresher going in. Now, it didn't affect the Rebels, who were on the third big game in 14 days. Great performance. Great game, lads. It was a pleasure to be there yesterday. It was super stuff, did you?
You didn't compliment my tipping. I know I had been wrong a couple of times during the season, but just so you are aware, and I'm sure you'll tell me. You'll tell me that even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? But for me, I did say Cork marginally, even possibly after extra time. I'm just saying.
I know, but you'd have lost your money if you back Cork, you see, because it was a draw.
Yeah, but I said possibly after extra time, so I would cover myself. But anyway, I was right. Just give it to me. I was right.
I said it to Jackie when Kilkenny got the goal. He was jumping around the place, Jackie Turtle up on the podium thing. And I said it to him, Jesus, I says, TJ, tip Cork. I says, he just can't get one right this year, bar Limerick. No, sure, look, it was a brilliant game, lads. It ebbed and flowed, and just fantastic to watch. He did and a pleasure. I said it, Hoagie, you were down below us. Hoagie, you got off to a great start. Like when you were 6-2, you were doing all the hurling at that stage. I thought maybe another point or two, and you could have, a bit like Limerick, turned the screw maybe.
Yeah, we mentioned the physicality in Waterford brought against Limerick, and before the ball was even thrown in, there was a bit of squaring up in the midfield, and I was rubbing my hands. I was like, brilliant! Like this, get the blood going. Let's have it. And I think we won the ruck ball, and we went 6 points to 2 up, and things were moving well. Okay, they looked dangerous in the inside line, but we were pressing up in their puck out. We were going well, and then they got into the match and got a couple of points as you'd expect, but still by half time, a point up. I felt we probably could have been a couple more points up, but I just felt, particularly after the first water break, we started to struggle to come to grips with their kind of puck out. We weren't pressing them, and a bit like the Limerick situation with Waterford. If you give Cork the opportunity to play the ball through the hands and get their heads up, and they were more than happy to play it back to Collins and over and back, and it mightn't have been the prettiest to watch, but they were patient, they were waiting, they knew what they were trying to do. Ultimately, I think they were trying to get the ball into Mark Coleman's hand as much as they could, and then he was spraying the ball from the half back line in, and look, with the pace they had, they were just looking for space to pop the ball into the likes of Horgan and Jack O'Connor and these. And yeah, I just felt as the match went on, we kind of we struggled to close that down, you know. But look, it was a fair rattle throughout the match, you know. It was brilliant, right? The 70 minutes. There was a local guy here I know who's got into the photography, and he got his first pass to a match, and he was saying he was struggling to keep up with the play in terms of photographs, like, you know. And I could sympathise with him. It was just the pace of it, and you know, the pace of the Cork players. And I suppose ultimately, you know, when we got that goal just in the end of full time, I was like, yes, you know, I just thought we have him now. That's a killer, you know, for Cork, particularly with Hoggy missing the free, you know, and he'd been brilliant all day. I just thought mentally it's going to be hard to lift themselves, but in fairness to them, they were a better team in extra time, and you couldn't complain. And I think, aside from the results, which is a huge, obviously, getting to the final, I think psychologically for this Cork team, this is a massive, you know, more so than the previous years and getting to semi-finals. I think this is a massive turning point for this Cork team because of the players who are coming through as well, the Connollys and these guys, and obviously the you know, there's a real platform there now, you know, for the next couple of years. And look, there's nothing certain, but I just get that sense that the momentum is starting to come behind Cork. But yeah, look, it was very disappointing. I thought after 15 minutes things were going well. Go on, Landers.
Yeah. Go on. I know. In fairness,
right, I'm going, lads.
5 points in a row, Matt.
Oh, lads, lock that door. Let the horse stop up.
Just the 5 points in a row that you rattled off, and Hoggy really being to the fore. That was your time, really, where you're saying we are in this. We are not going away anywhere.
Yeah, like I would say, I thought the first 3 quarters were very okay. Yes, Kilkenny were very good in the first 10 minutes, right, and led 6-2, and there was 1 or 2 goal opportunities that were last gasp efforts to stop them. And you know, in fairness to Mark Coleman, was brilliant. And I'd have to say, I thought Sean O'Donoghue struggled early doors on Owen Cody, who ended up scoring 4 points over the course of the game. But I thought Sean O'Donoghue warmed to the game as it went on. But I thought the first 3 quarters of the game ended up pretty level across the board. I think was level, a point down, and level at the end of the 3rd quarter. But in the 4th quarter, I thought Cork absolutely took off. And it felt as though they found an extra gear out of nowhere in the last quarter and headed for home and went 6 points up. But I'm just going back over a couple of games now. This 6 points, when we go 6 points up against Limerick in 2018, against Clare this year, and against Kilkenny, we went 6 points up, and we got reeled in, like we were reeled in by Limerick. I suppose Patrick Collins saved us against Clare in the save he had late in the game, and Kilkenny to draw a level. And I was sitting beside a fella in the stand, and we were 3 points up, and time was nearly up. And he said to me, "It is a dangerous lead." And I said, "Well, I tell you, I prefer to have a 3-point lead than a 2-point lead at this stage, because it's very, very hard if you concede a goal at that stage and go a point down to try and get an equalising score." But I thought it was the last quarter that Cork actually started to come through, and maybe some of the gaps start to appear on the Kilkenny side, and pace came into it at that stage. And particularly Jack O'Connor had a magnificent ending to the game. So had Robert Downey. I thought actually Sean O'Donoghue and Downey struggled slightly. They conceded 9 points from play between them, 5 and 4. And I thought actually there was one thing flashed into my mind about Sean O'Donoghue, was that, you know, there was clearances coming from the Kilkenny defence that he's trying to get his bearings. A couple of times were off. But I thought after the first half, I thought he thundered into the game. Himself and Downey, I thought, settled down extremely well. Now, O'Leary was solid all through. But Brian mentioned about Mark Coleman. It was definitely his best game of the season and championship. He was on everything. And not alone was he supplying ball yesterday, but the shoulder that he hit Walter Welch and drove him out over the sideline was one of the best tackles. Like, he went off, injured himself after it, but it'll show you that the ferociousness of the tackle to take down Walter late in the game, fair and square now. But he was a key. And I suppose after Hugh Lawler trying to take out poor old Tim O'Mahony in the first half, it was a great scene to see him thunder into the game, particularly in the extra time as well. Because I suppose he, as Dale, as you mentioned today in your article, if Cork were beaten, Tim O'Mahony would probably have shouldered a fair bit of responsibility with the ball that was last coming out. But look, we wouldn't pin it on anybody, but he would get a bit of stick over it. But he was outstanding in the extra time, and along with Downey as well, because the aerial balls at day one, which was fantastic to see, is something that has been missing, I suppose, from a Cork point of view, is guys reaching into the sky and plucking the ball, particularly in defence. I thought it was magnificent. So, to me, the last quarter was Cork's best quarter of the game, and then the game could actually have been lost. But again, what do you have to say about Kilkenny? Like, they never gave up the ghost. They got most of the scores to get them back into the game from play, and in fairness to Mullen. And lads, like, the fact that he came across 4 defenders and stuck the ball in the net, right? The rule change about the cynical play inside the 21 might have come into their heads there, that it didn't, like in the past. Maybe a defender might have pulled them down and take a chance with the penalty, but then you would have been down a man and a sin bin. So I'd have to say it's a different conversation, but I think that might have flashed through fellas' heads for that second when he stepped back inside him, you know?
I don't agree. I think the fact that he was going away from goals, they didn't foul him.
Yeah, they were all wrong. They were wrong-footed.
I think if he was going the other way, they might have fouled him. Yeah. But I was going to just touch on sport and psychology, and pressure is amazing too. When Cork were 3 points up with that last 65, like, who else would you want hitting it? Only Hoggy to put you 4 up, and it's amazing, right? He misses that. That gives Kilkenny that there was a chance coming here. But I will agree. I watched the game at home on telly. I thought it was a super game of hurling to watch. To me, it had it all. I thought the first half, you probably have to say that even at 15-14, Cork might have been a little bit happier at half-time. Like, to the best of my knowledge, I think both Jack O'Connor and Shamie Harnedy had little or no play, I think, at all in the first half. I don't know.
Jack O'Connor had no play, TJ.
No play, yeah. And Shamie Harnedy wasn't in it either, Dalo. So for the first half, for those two guys in Cork to still be in the position they were in, I also thought the flip side, Brian, I thought Kilkenny's forward movement was excellent. I thought that Billy Ryan was causing big problems for Rob Downey from forward. TJ jumping in and out of positions. Ger Mellerick was trying to pick him up, pushing Coleman wide. I thought that movement on Cody. And you'd probably have to say the only real negative for Kilkenny in that space was maybe the Richie Reid wides, right? Because they had worked some lovely ball there, and they kind of maybe just, I don't know, maybe took a little bit of the steam out of it. But in fairness to both teams, there was an awful lot of positives. And I'd say both dressing rooms at halftime would have felt, look, let's keep going, lads. This game is there for us.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you, TJ. I just felt those couple of wides, and they're well within Richie's locker. You know, it's just unfortunate. I think there were 3 in close succession that he drove wide, and, you know, not to be picking him out, you know, I mean, we were, I suppose, normally we're pretty economical with our chances, whereas I think we drove 11 wides, you know, which, you know, compared to Cork's 3, I think was a stat, and you know, it's just unlike Kilkenny, you know, and those shot selections. The movement was really good. I think in the first 15 minutes we turned over Cork a couple of times from their puck outs, and they looked a bit jittery, you know, Downey and that and Donoghue, but they settled into it, as Mark mentioned, and as the game went on, they got stronger and stronger. And I suppose one of the areas I felt we'd have the advantage on was the aerial. And you remember TJ winning the ball and popping it to Owen Cody, and it just, you know, it was a half goal chance. And Owen as well, he won the ball in the air, came back inside, put it over the bar in the first half. We were winning those. Whereas in the second half, Downey, you know, and Tim O'Mahony in particular, the two of them started catching balls and driving out with them, which hasn't been the case for Cork for a number of years. And they you know, as a credit to them, I suppose, they settled into the match and really came thundering into it. And, you know, that was our big outlet for us, a big opportunity for us that was gone, you know, if you like. But, and as well, the tiredness, you know, the movement was good. Yeah, you're right, TJ. But as the game went on, you could see the tiredness coming in. Pádraig Welsh was absolutely immense in the first half for us. The amount of ball, like Coleman at the other end, the amount of ball he cleared. And even at the end, I mean, it was him who picked out the pass for Adrian Mullen. But it just an extra time. He covered so much ground. But I suppose where Cork had the bench to bring in more and more pace, we just didn't have that. And I think that, you know, that was a big difference as well, you know, coming into the extra time.
Hoagie, I was vocal on it on the TV, and that I just thought TJ was neither here nor there. When he was outside, he worked his socks off as usual. But like, to put him in, we'll say roughly on the 84th minute, allowing for injury time, and he was legless at that stage with tiredness. He'd worked so hard in the middle. He's not a young lad anymore. Yeah. For me, like Mark said there about Robert Downey conceding maybe 5 points. Like one ball that TJ and himself contested,
before now, the second period of extra time, TJ snapped it, gave it to Cody, great goal chance. Sean O'Donoghue actually did well, I thought, to get back and get a Hurley in to put him off a little bit. But like, for me, you never tested Robert Downey as a full-back. He was outside centre-forward, TJ, and Murph has such a belt to the ball, and what a performance Murph gave in goal. In fairness, I mean, what a save. I haven't seen a save like that, I don't know when. Nicky Quaid the day before, something similar.
Which one?
The low one was a brilliant save, but the one he came off his line to Connolly, that was incredible. But like, just he was belting it so far, it was going over TJ's head, and it was landing down on Downey and Billy Ryan, and that's not the kind of ball Billy will thrive on either. Like, so for me, TJ's positioning was all wrong. Either go a bit shorter and let it down his head at centre forward, or put him into the edge of the square. Right? I couldn't believe how long Cody didn't change that.
No, I'd agree. I think it was a passage there where Downey got the flick away from TJ and came out it, and then seized up a cramp but TJ looked. He was right. And to be fair to the man, like, as you say, like we all comment on his work rate and the ground he covers. And at one stage here, I think he was down in the half back line. He actually won a ball that was turned over, and then we turned it over again. And it was bloody TJ who won possession and popped off to James Maher. So absolutely, I actually thought at some point they weren't going to start him because it was too obvious. But I thought at some point, and they did it for a minute or two, put him in the edge of the square with maybe Cody beside him and look to angle that ball in. And they only did it the once. And look, hindsight's a great thing, but I definitely would have, thought he would have put him in there. That was an area we target, along with Richie Hogan coming in. I mean, bring Richie in the second half of extra time. But, I know injuries weren't an issue. He was fit. He's been going, he hasn't been a problem, thankfully, for him over the last, few weeks, and he looked sharp when he came in. But look, hindsight, I suppose we didn't have the pace that Cork were bringing in, but we needed to utilise that bit of class that we had in the likes of Richie and the game was run away from us, I suppose, at that stage when Richie was brought in,
Yeah. I know, but Brian, I'd say that there was nobody before the game would have seen the impact of the subs that Cork were to bring in. 11 points to 1 from the bench was incredible, and obviously, like Shane Kingston's performance, one of the men of the match. It was just an incredible performance from any individual for a lad who didn't make the starting 15. And I'd say probably his dad afterwards said, it was the wake-up call maybe that he needed. I actually met his mother on the way into the match, and I said, I was talking to her for a couple of minutes. I said, you're after a tough week, I'd say, in your house this week. I'd say Frosties was the breakfast menu nearly every morning. But
some contribution from Douglas, wasn't it?
Brilliant, absolutely. And Alan Cadigan came on, got 3 points from play, and Owen came in. And your man. He's a half a kilo man now. Young Cadigan. Dalton came in late. No, Owen Cadigan is living in Killa here. He's gone over the girl from Killa. So he when John Melrick went off injured, he got the job of marking teacher, and I think he did a very, very good job, good steady job. But Decky Dalton, great point. And Dalo, I would say this, he's a fella. And against Limerick, I definitely think he's a long ways down the pecking order, because I think he was the 6th sub that came on yesterday. I would have had him on. Alan was very good when he came on. He got 3 points, but there was a lot of ball went in when we were 6 points up with about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and it came back out too easy. If you don't win it yourself first time, whatever you need to do, you need to get after the cornerback and close him down as soon as possible and stop him from clearing that ball. And I thought there was a lot of easy ball came out of the Kilkenny defence late in the game.
Dalton looked in great shape, Mark.
Unreal. He actually warmed up in front of me. And I said to myself, who's this fella? And I was waiting for him to turn me back. 20s. I said, Jesus. I actually text a couple of lads at home now, because he works for a lad. He works for a lad in Killa, right? Conor McNamara. And I said, I've never seen Dalton in such good shape. And I can tell you this much. He's a fella definitely against Limerick in the All-Ireland final. I know he doesn't suit the style of play they're playing. They went pace. They went electrifying pace, actually, is what they went. They went Jack O'Connor, Robbie O'Flynn, Shane Kingston type of pace. But there is a place in that team for a big, strong man. And he's not lacking a lot of pace, lads. He's just not as fast as the three speedsters that we have. But by God, if he gets the ball in his hand, he'll nail it all the time. And he's brimming in confidence. And if he gets a goal opportunity, he will take it on as well. Like, he's that ability. So,
and he stuck a ball over the bar there, Mark, and he turned around. And I don't know, was it to Kingston or was it to the Cork crowd? It looked like it was a fist pump, as in, like, did you see that? Kind of.
Yeah, exactly. A bit of both, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Waterford-esque.
Yeah. And he was a bit unlucky he didn't nail a second one as well, like.
Yeah,
he was. Just in this year, he should have. When he got that ball, you'd say he's going to nail this. Yeah,
you fancied him to get it. Yeah,
that was like me, like you now, looking down. I said, "Who's that?" And I took look at my program. 26. Jesus,
yeah, great shape.
Yeah,
super shape.
Marky, I was talking to a few Cork lads on the way out. Like, are you happier it went extra time now? Do you know? Monday morning. No, you still have to play 20 minutes longer now. A day after Limerick played, it will take a bit out of the bodies. A lot of cramp. Robbie O'Flynn went off. Melrick looks like he's out probably with a hamstring, I would have thought, but
definitely gone.
I know you like, but why would you be happier?
Well, I think it's a psychological thing. We've always questioned the consistency of performance. Now we're after winning 3 matches back to back, and we've performed very well in all 3 games. Maybe not so well against Dublin the second half, or if you want to be really technical, but they got the job done. And we mentioned in the pod last week that we got over the line without overly exerting ourselves. But I think the psychological fact of being 6 points up and getting stopped just at the death could have nailed a weaker team. But it didn't nail these. So now you'd have to say, do you know what? These guys have a bit of stuff inside them. They have a bit of determination. They have a bit of heart. They have a bit of know-how. The guys in the sideline as well, Kieran and Diarmid and Ger Cunningham. I don't know whether Grady came off the stand or not now to go into the dressing room at the end of the game and stuff like that, to give a few words and stuff like that. But you'd have to give great credit to the management.
Christie, I might add.
Yeah, sorry, Christie. Well, he's done a great job with Patrick Collins, hasn't he? There's going to be some shootout for the All-Star. But I tell you, Patrick Collins made a couple of fantastic saves yesterday. And I want to compliment both keepers, Anthony, because you actually don't see how good their puck-outs are until you're actually at the game. Owen Murphy arrowed a couple of balls, lads, 110 or 115 yards, straight into fella's hands. And then I see Patrick Collins hit Mark Coleman with one right on the sideline. And there was a Kilkenny fella coming from the side, and there was a Kilkenny fella coming from out. And he put it right into his hand and gave him one step, and he was able to move away. So the goalkeepers, their accuracy on their puck-outs is phenomenal. We would have always thought shot stopping was their main thing, but their restarting of the game is ferocious. But do I think that Cork will benefit from the extra time? Psychologically, massive. I think the fact that there's a fortnight, Anthony, isn't going to take anything out of them. They'll be sore this week, and probably they'll give them maybe Tuesday and Thursday will be down, do a bit of work over the weekend and stuff like that. There isn't a whole pile that you're going to improve on now. It's tactics and it's mental and it's the health of the team now, because we'll need to have everything. And I mentioned the last that for Cork to win, we would need everything to go right, and we need to give top class performances. I think we got that from most fellas. You mentioned earlier on about Shamie Harnedy. Again, they played him wing forward. To me, you play Harnedy centre forward and nowhere else. Dalo Fitzgibbon played centre forward. The talk is that he was sick, he was poor, and any fellow who's sick, lads, you can't get over sickness. So he'll be fine again come a fortnight's time. But for me, Harnedy has to play centre forward, and I wouldn't be like coming to the All-Ireland final. It's a different conversation. Won't be fucking the ball down in Kyle Hayes or Dermot Buns. You'll be fucking it down in Dickie Hannon, and you'll have fellas steaming through the centre on the breaking ball. That's the game plan.
Yeah,
plan number one, TJ.
I thought that was unusual, and he kind of couldn't come into the game. And, I suppose there'll always be, but to his credit now, in extra time, he showed up again. Of course, he'll always keep going, in fairness to him. He's a warrior that way.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the other thing, probably the fact, Anthony, that he didn't play centre forward, there was a lot more ball maybe went through to Patrick Horgan. Like Patrick Horgan probably had his best game of the season. I think he got 6 points from play. But a couple, if you actually went away and did an individual vox pop on Patrick's points that he got from scores, he gave an unbelievable performance in terms of shot taking and the scores over. Talk about Shamie Flanagan hitting balls over his shoulder. I think the first one that Horgan got actually he was faced away from the goals and he struck it over the bar. So it's he gave an unbelievable performance yesterday. It was brilliant.
It was vintage, Hoggy. And I thought you could you could have taken him off, Jack O'Connor, but rather than taking him off, they brought him out to right half forward and they put Cadigan inside him, and they dominated that right side of the attack. Then most of the good stuff came down that right side, with the sheer pace of the two boys. I think it might be Mikey Carey and Paddy Deegan. They were just struggling with the pace of it. Because they're electric. Like, geez, Jack O'Connor.
Jack O'Connor is
the speed of Jack O'Connor. Jeez,
he's like an antelope when he gets going. To be honest with it, small story there. There was 2 Kilkenny fellas and a Wexford lad, young lads now, and they're obviously after finding some watering hole because they came in a minute before the throw in, and the fella from Wexford said to me, "Look, I want to have a tenner on some fella to get the first goal." I said, who do you think from? I said, I'm not backing the Kilkenny fellas because I want to drive it into the boys. So what car? I said, Jack O'Connor's your man. I said, and every ball that went into the forwards in the first half, he was shouting, "Come on, Jack!" As you said, he'd one ball for the whole game. But when he got the opportunity in the second half, he went straight through the centre, and the ball hit the upright. Oh my God, it was just unbelievable, But I think Owen Murphy got a touch on it, did he?
He did. It was a brilliant save.
Fantastic.
Hoagie, going to have to ask you the obvious one. There'll be speculation about the gaffer again. There's another year without an All-Ireland, but another Leinster Championship, of course. 2 years in a row now, beaten in the semi-final. It'll be up to Brian to call it, I presume. When you've done what Brian has done, at the end of the day, it'll be just up to Brian to say, I've enough of it or whatever.
Well, absolutely. There's no one in the county board is going to be making a decision for him. It'll be up to him. He's there as long as he wants to be there. It's as simple as that. And trying to second guess what he's thinking is you're at nothing. I suppose we've seen. He brought Conor Phelan in. Along with Gerta and a few. In terms of the backroom team and freshen things up. And you can see definitely improvements in terms of the movement and just personnel. Like Michael Carey has added serious pace in there in the backs. Unfortunately, he had to go off. He was a loss and. So there's definitely been upsides, improvements this year. I just, TJ's not getting any younger, Pádraig's not getting any younger, albeit Pádraig was absolutely outstanding, and a few of the others. I hope they stay on, but we do need to try and find another, 3-4 guys, and I think, look, without going into it today, I suppose the issue for us is with, the underage, the development squads now, we're just behind the curve massively, and it's taken us to see Cody and Mullen, how good they are. It's taken us 2-3 years to get them physically up to speed. Hurling wise, no problem. So we have a lot of ground to make up, I think, in that regard, which is, so that we can kind of have more, I suppose, at our disposal. But in terms of Brian, look, I mean, I'm certainly not going to be preempting what he's thinking, and it'll be up to him to make a decision either way.
Yeah, no, look, and it's amazing. Talking to Brendan Cummins, and he was kind of saying to me that Tip were in trouble underage, and it's amazing to be saying. We all know Clare are in trouble underage, and we all know why as well. But it's amazing to hear Kilkenny and Tip feel they're in trouble underage, and the other two boys that say underage were never as healthy, really, in terms of Cork and Limerick.
Yeah, well, look, I've been talking to a few of the boys, and they're involved in the club. I'm involved myself with my own club. I've seen it 25 years ago, under the stewardship of Ned Quinn and that, we put in these development squads. And we reap the benefit of it, and I know there was counties come up looking at it. I think your own county, Dalo, came up to at one stage to look at it, the setup, but it's a massive need of an overhaul. It's completely outdated and it's of no benefit. And I think there's a realization now it's not fit for purpose, and it's, despite the best efforts of the clubs are doing what they can, and that's fair enough, but things have moved on, that kind of way. And, so look, it's for another day, but in fairness, I think there's hurlers there. There's always hurlers in Kilkenny. It's providing them with the right tools to maximise their potential, and look, no one will be crying over the situation, that with Kilkenny, and we'll be there. Look, with Brian at the helm, we'll always be thereabouts. That's for sure. The lads will always drive their boots on. So look, we'll see. We'll learn from the performances we did, and move on.
Go back and savage into each other at the club and winter it out then, and see what way it goes.
Exactly.
TJ, you're sitting at home watching yesterday's one. you're sitting there and Kilkenny get a late goal and it's going to extra time. It's your Limerick jersey on you. Who you kind of hoping for? You needn't give away now the constitution here now, but who you from your point of view? I'm not saying this isn't maybe not what John Kiley is thinking. It's just TJ Ryan's Limerick supporter now, expert podcaster here with us every Monday. Who would you have likened to be facing up to your boys?
I'll answer it honestly. And we were discussing it at home. My honest opinion yesterday during the game was I thought that we'd have a better chance of beating Kilkenny in the final, believe it or not. I thought the game they play, would suit us. I thought that maybe for us there might be more of an edge kind of what happened in 2019. We felt that we might have owed them one. And I think that if there is a game plan out there to trouble the current Limerick setup, right, I think it's the game plan of the pace and the players that Cork have. So I think there's more worry in the final now than it would have been if it was Kilkenny. Now that might seem like a strange statement. I said last week that the Cork curve is definitely on the way up, right? And I think for anybody on the way up, right, I think beating Kilkenny remains the bar, right? And I think for any dressing room and any setup, Dalo, I think when you beat the Cats, right, I think training the following week takes on a life of its own. You know you're in the mix. I think it's like as if you're nearly qualified to win an All Ireland when you beat Kilkenny. That seems to be the bar. Like Cork, the red tide, and go back to the underage, right? I think the underage Marco here probably got the ball rolling, like winning the 20 All Ireland, the minors getting a couple of wins, and the 20s winning the Munster again. You've got the minor Munster final tonight. You pulled a stroke at the 20 All Ireland, and that seems to have worked for you. And it seems to be everything is red at the moment, and this tide is now huge, right? Like fitness wise, you'd probably say game plan wise, they're definitely a long way ahead of last year. And I'll go to the last piece then again, right? Is they started Shane Barrett instead of Kingston, right? Kingston. Big call, right? Brave call. Yeah. Like even leave out the father-son relationship, which is definitely not easy. Like you wouldn't like to, and that's unbelievably brave of Kieran Kingston, right? And obviously we know what Shane has done now when he came on, but like even the Dara Fitzgibbon, like he didn't, like we know what he's capable of, right? On 42 minutes, you know what I mean? They take him out, right? They took out, let's say, Mark Coleman. There might have been a bit of an injury there, but they didn't leave him there, right? So they made the changes, and I think that in all aspects of what they're doing. And maybe, as I said, you can credit the underage for getting this ball rolling and getting people talking Cork again, right? And even in yourself, Marco, this morning, right? That Corkness, there's no doubt about it. The dial has gone up, like, hasn't it? You can feel it.
He was giving it up. He was giving it up altogether during the first lockdown, like. So you're wary of the red tide.
Absolutely. I just think that. I said it again last week that Jack O'Connor is a game changer, right? And even though things didn't work out for him, like, right, he stuck with it. And, you know, go back to Mr. Dean and all these boys in the past, great Cork players, right? Patience was part of their game, right? They didn't get frustrated with it. Like, Jack, didn't happen for him in the first half here, but yet again, the first sight of goal, he was gone down the channel and he had goal in his mind. And, you know, in fairness to him, even the goal he got with Kilkenny fellas hounding him down, like, jeez, like you know, you like to see what he do over 100 meters. He's just unbelievably quick off the mark. And look, the pace is the one. And there might have been one or two areas of Limerick's game that when you saw when Waterford really ran at him and opened him up, the Limerick might have struggled for pace. Like, so I'm just saying that hurling keeps evolving, and we've known this over the last 20, 30 years, that it went from power, then it went to possession game, then it went back to physicality, then now Limerick brought kind of the possession and nearly a kind of similar to football style use of the ball to the middle of the field, and then they release it and they do it extremely well. I think maybe the next change around, right, is you have to play with your forwards up there. I think pace looks like it's the next move, and they have it. Unfortunately, but they have it.
Yeah, and Hoagie, that's one thing. I know you have to go there now very shortly, and we'll let you off. But pace is an issue with Kilkenny, isn't it? Like, why? I don't know why. Like, so there's no one going off testing out every hurler at 12 to know is he fast. Just they either come or they don't come. Like Eddie Brennan came along, I suppose, under the same circumstances. He was lightning. stuff like that. But like, just it can be a bit of luck in a generation as well.
Yeah, and we're not talking. I suppose we're not saying there's no inter-county player who's slow, but you're talking about that X factor, that like the speed that Jack O'Connor has. I mean, I remember, Colin Naughton was a type of player back in the day, who, like, Jesus, if you got the ball, he was gone, forget about it, and like I said, Michael Carey, I felt was a huge addition to us because of the pure pace he had. He took off there in the quarter-final, or in the Leinster final, and he went off up the line, and Jesus, he was incredible. I hadn't seen pace like that in the team, and when you have one or two guys in your backs or in your forwards who've got that pace, it creates so much space and opportunity for the other guys, because it just takes a run from one of them and it sends panic into the defence. And yeah, look, we don't have that kind of blinding pace at the moment. Like, look, Billy Ryan is no slouch. He's quick. And as I said, look, Cody, it has pace in over a couple of yards. He's a real corner forward. He'll turn on a sixpence, but that blinding pace, probably coming from midfield almost, that kind of coming from deep. Fenno would have had it, and Richie Power, kind of deceptively quick. We just don't have it at the moment, and it's a big advantage. I'd rather have it than not have it, because even if you don't get on the ball, it likes the Jack O'Connor. He didn't get on the ball in the first half, but every time he moved, your eye was taken, where's he gone? Because he's that quick, and it brings panic into it. But look, it's something that's very hard to create. You either have it at that level, we're talking at searing pace, or you don't. But Cork have it at the moment, and as TJ's mentioned, it's you play to your advantage, and Cork have it, and I'm sure it's something they're going to look to utilise against the Limerick lads. But look, the Limerick lads are no slouches either. They have likes of Kyle Hayes and these guys. We're not talking about these slow kind of big units. These guys are units, but they can move as well. Donoghue, Kyle Hayes, right through the team. So it's going to be an intriguing battle for sure.
Well, Hoagie, and you were at the hour, Hoagie, so we're going to let you go on. Thanks a million, Brian, for joining us. Always great to get the Kilkenny point of view. One
second now. Before he goes,
wooden spoon.
How's he getting on the fantasy hurling team?
He gave up the ghost, sir. He made no changes.
I threw on the one basket. I figured Cork couldn't get to the finals, so I didn't even pick any players. I had a nightmare. Nightmare.
I looked at your team this morning, kid. You are destined for the wooden spoon. Landers, you're safe. Jesus. You're safe.
Oh, that's a victory.
You're all around for
Just 2 to be relegated, though. TJ, you could be coming with a wet sail there with Hoggy. Is it too late? Right, Brian, we talked to you. What are you, 12.15 and he's 12.53? Like, you need Hoggy to get about 2.10, and then, of course, that could cost Limerick the All-Ireland. Like,
it could. Like, I gambled on Hoggy being captain, getting the 3 games in. Larry the Fecker had Shane Kingston, and obviously Larry might have been kicking himself when Kingston wasn't starting, and then he comes in, and so he stays ahead of me by 3 points. I'd certainly like a top 2 finish, but having the captain playing in the final definitely is a plus. Tom Morrissey was very good to me. Tom Morrissey was very good to me as well. Like, but
we're the only 2 with captains left. I think I've earned Gillane, so I should be safely ahead of the crowd at the bottom there. Like,
my forecasting is getting better, and just during the week there, for the guys in the fantasy hurling, I presented a couple of prizes, a couple of Limerick youngsters there. And to be fair to them, they absolutely loved the whole fantasy idea, and they were questioning my knowledge about maybe picking Hoggy as captain. And in fairness to them, for under 11s, they were very well tuned in. So
come here, they had won before the semi-final, had them on.
They did. Like, Brian Halley won the jersey, and it was Jamie Flannery who won the Slitters, and I think there's only 1 point between the 2 of them. Like, so they were getting a great kick out of it. But look, good fun. And in fairness to anybody out there who's in the fantasy, like, it definitely it changes your interpretation of a game. It's great crack, yeah.
Yeah, and there's our listeners. All thanks to Butler Hurleys again, lads. And TJ, your buddy's got down 6th. Hurler ditch. Shane Hassett, drumming it. Looking good, Shane. Mentor with Clare as well, I think. Great pal of Brian Lohan's, good guy. He's up the top there, but again, very tight. But he must have a captain, because he scored this week.
Look at number 3, Dalo.
Yeah,
Marina Fusella, Italy, with the Dulwich Hearts.
Some score.
Will we be going to Italy for the? Will we be going to Italy for the preview?
Marina,
is Murphy's going to take us like?
Marina Snapchatted me there to say if she does win it, would I go over with the prize myself? She didn't mention the 2 now, but I know it's a great story. So we're not low on we nationwide now. We're gone into Europe now and everything. So no fair play to the lads in Roa. Great competition. It's even last night. Like I go back to the hotel there and you're just looking up your fantasy team to see how did you get on. Like you knew the scores weren't up, but you were weighing it up. Like and will I stay ahead of Landers? Like that's the main thing. Like,
the captaincy is the killer.
Big 2 weeks for you, and we'll be having a great preview show. Where it'll be, or will it be this format? We'll speculate and we'll put our heads together for a few days. We'd love to have a live one, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. We're not sure. Tony's back from his holidays now, so we talk to him tomorrow. Maybe that, But look, we kept it to an hour and 30. Larry'd be delighted because that's the target. So brilliant weekend, boys. Anything in the 2 weeks? Tickets, of course, straight away, lads, aren't they?
Yeah, there was talk, I think, there that maybe the full allocation around the country that goes for this All-Ireland final mightn't be in place. And if it's not, I think that will definitely help the two participating counties. Like 40,000 is a decent crowd for the hurling people of Limerick and Cork. But in fairness to the Rebels, they have a huge travelling public, which is growing and growing and growing. So, yeah, it's got the makings of a great 2 weeks. I'm probably in the position where I'm not too far from the border, so we kind of hear them every now and again. Dalo, yeah, and the shouts are getting louder. And my two sisters are married to two Cork lads, just to add that into the mix, yeah. And I see my Jackie's youngsters, they were wearing green jerseys on Saturday, and they were wearing red jerseys on Sunday. So I suppose in that house,
half and half.
What happens next? I don't know. I don't know who's going to win the battle there. No, that's going to be an interesting one.
Fecta half and half. Make up your minds.
Make up your minds. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, sure, look,
I just hope that there will be kids' tickets available, Dalo, again.
Yeah. It was brilliant to see the children both days.
Oh, brilliant. And just to compliment Paul Collins, who went around to the stand as well, picking out people and doing small interviews and giving away prizes. While people were waiting because there was no game beforehand. So and we were in early, we were in for an hour beforehand, and the smart I went to do, we get a burger and chips and a hot dog and stuff like that, and just soaking in the whole atmosphere the whole day. And
it's a fantastic place, isn't it?
But sure, when I was listening to my man shouting Rebels and clapping his hands, and he was never done that before or never heard it. So he's. The poor old fella, I'd probably be able to sleep at all for the next couple of weeks because I made a promise to the second fella because he was crying when we were going off yesterday morning and he wasn't being taken. So I said, cute enough, I says, I'll take you the next day. And of course, what did Charlie say coming home in the car? You promised Matt, to take him to the next day. What does that mean for me? So here we
Shout out there to the Cork committee. Your man needs 1 + 2, and that also 2 children. Look at for all hay truck drivers. Will you feck off the next two carriageway for 2 weeks' time, please? And look, what a day to look forward to. Limerick 1 to 5 on TJ. It's only a matter of going up and collecting it, surely.
That's wrong. No, that's right. That's a wrong price for me. As I said to you, I genuinely think. Look, myself and Landers will have a proper head-to-head on this, right? We go at it, hammer and tongs. Whoever wants us, right?
No headbutt. No.
The week of the match, yeah. And we want Peter Casey to be playing, right? Peter Casey.
Bring him on.
Peter Casey. We're reading that. Right? We want him to play, but I think that they have the pace to trouble us. I still think Limerick will win it, right? And we'll talk about it in more detail on another day.
Yeah.
Dalo, give us your 30-second snapshot of what you think is going to happen, and then we'll talk about it in detail.
Yeah, I like and I'm not saying it when Hoagie's gone off the line, but I would have felt for Limerick to get Kilkenny after 19 was the ideal scenario for Limerick. I actually go back to the match, lads, early on this year, and Mark, you felt Limerick had another gear. I'm not so sure. I thought Cork had a massive opportunity. I said it at the time. to rattle off 3 or 4 points and absolutely test Limerick's mettle down. Like they didn't, but I didn't see. I think it's a much improved Cork now, and I think if that patch comes again, Cork might jump in and grab it. Like so, 1 to 5 for me is all wrong. All wrong.
Yeah. The betting is all wrong, but all I'd say is 66 to Thunder and Lightning, 86 to Bishop of Galway, 1990 Babs and the Donkeys don't win derbies, and 99 nobody gave us a chance. There's the feeling of it now that we don't have a chance, and I'm just hoping the TJ will say something out of place that we can, throw in the Bishop of Galway there, But
I don't think he will. I don't think he will.
No, he's too cute. He's too cute. Yeah. But, I think we have. Do you know what we have, lads? We have a great panel of players right now. We have 5 or 6 or 7 fellas that can come on and make a contribution, and I hope that any fella that came on yesterday knows he has a contribution to make to this team. The scrap will be for the first 15, but it doesn't. It's not all about the first 15, as what Shane Kingston proved yesterday. Coming off the bench as well, but that's the kind of thing we need to see. We need a performance like that from all the players to actually beat Limerick, because as well as I do, Dalo, the Limerick backs will park the bus inside the 45-yard line, and they won't be allowing any speedster to run through. So maybe Jack O'Connell will have to hit a couple of scores, 5 or 6 from 60, 70 yards out, like Tom Morrissey and Garrod Hegarty have done. He was ferocious. I give great credit to Jack O'Connell yesterday for being so quiet in the first half, and then to turn around and score a goal and 3 points for the rest of the game from play.
And as you said earlier, and I know I said it this morning, for me, the man who deserves the most credit is Tim O'Mahony, because he must have been thinking, oh my God, what did I do with that ball? And to get himself right in the 3 or 4 minutes break before the extra time, and the amount of ball he caught in the air and repelled Kilkenny men, and I thought that was a real sign of probably a new Cork, let's face it.
And we've no leader. Sorry, go on, Tej.
I was going to say a couple of things have happened, maybe even both sides here, Marco, with like what's the prelude to Rob Downey ending up at full back, right? They kind of stumble upon that, and that's really, really working for them, and he'll suit one of the Limerick players now. And there's been other changes, like Richie English got injured and Dan Morrissey got back in, and Limerick dropped, let's say, Aaron Gillan, and then they had a poor first half against Hip, and they have to bring him back in, and that kicks on. And before the All-Ireland final here, the quote that Bobby Jones said about golf comes to mind, right? Is that sometimes you take good shots and you get a bad break, and other times, Dalo, you take bad shots and you get a good break. But either way, it doesn't matter. You have to play where it lies, Marco. And 2 weeks' time, we'll be ready for you.
Oh, and that's a good way to finish up the show today.
And that's a wrap.
Thanks to all our listeners. Thanks to, what's his name, the golfer?
Bobby Jones.
Thanks to Bobby Jones, and delivered superbly by Mr. TJ Ryan. Thanks to Reno. Thanks to all our listeners, lads. We'll be having a preview show, and we'll see then, and we'll get the experts' opinion, who our guests will be. We might even have an extra guest for that one. So really looking forward to the 2 weeks. Best of luck to the 2 Lachicos on the ticket hunt. And anyone out there, lads, I have no tickets, and I don't talk to anyone in the Clare County Board, so I have no chance to get no. Good luck.
See you there.
Good luck.
With Renault, passion for what drives you. Official car partner of the GAA.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show